Hi, how are you guys? Today I want to tell a story about the ghost or the dead dude in the morgue. And at, at the time, what my mother said was when my psychic abilities truly opened up. I worked nights at the Naval Medical Center, and we worked at the information desk. So there was usually 2 to 3 of us there. We answered the phones. If people call the hospital, they want to know where someone's at, what room, what floor, how if you call the information desk at the hospital, that's what we did, like directions, things like that. Anyway, one of the duties of the night crew, because the medical examiner coroner from the military would go home at the end of the night, one of the duties of the night crew was we would open the door down there so that whenever someone passed away in a hospital, which commonly occurs, it's a hospital, we could take them down there and let them leave the body for the morning when the medical examiner and all those guys got into work. Well, I had, been doing it for, I don't know, almost a year at this point. Now, mind you, at the time all this was happening, I was learning to read tarot cards, doing a lot of different spiritual classes, meditations, doing a lot of spiritual development and working on my psychic ability and just developing myself spiritually. So I go down there. It was my turn, and I go down because I just gotten back from break. So I go down there to let this guy to, I guess admit this body down there. And I'd been down there, I don't know, too many times to count. And I'd never had it. It could be gross, but it was never, and kind of uncomfortable because dead bodies are just awkward. I mean, I was a corpsman, so medical stuff. So it was still disturbing, but it was what I did for a living. Anyway, so I had been down there a million times and never really been afraid or felt anything because it's just the body. The soul that was in it's gone. It's doing something else. Well, this night I walk in with I was a doctor and a corpsman who were, the corpsman was active duty. The doctor was a medical, an active duty officer at the time. And I walk in, and there was different ways you could come in. So they came in through the back way. What they do in the hospital is it makes it look like they're just doing an empty table. They put something on top of it so that you can't tell that they're pushing around a dead body. So it's like a square thing they put over the actual bed itself so that, it allows, so people don't freak out and it allows privacy. So they would come in one door of the morgue, and I would come in the other door of the morgue. So I came in one way, they came in from the back way because they were up on the hospital floors, on the ward floors, and I was at the information desk, which was a different part of the hospital because it wasn't on the main floor, it was on below. So anyway, I walk in there with them, and the first thing I notice is this guy who's wearing like a motorcycle jacket and motorcycle boots and jeans, and he's got a bag on his head, like a plastic bag on his head. So I'm thinking, motorcycle accident? Anyway, but the weirdest part was he's laying there and my eyes keep getting drawn to the area above his head. And the only way I can describe this, I have not in any way, shape, or form ever felt any kind of a different perception of it. It was like there was like a taste of anger in the air. It was like I could taste anger. It's the only way I can describe what it felt like to me. It was very subtle, but it was a taste of anger. And you gotta realize, I've been down there a million times, never felt like anybody was there. So they drop off the body. They were there to leave down there. And they go back the way they went to go to the back part of the hospital to go up to to go back to doing what they were doing. Well, me being not the brave person, because if you've ever watched Teresa Caputo, she's scared of everything. I'm not quite as bad as her, but I will say that being psychic makes you somewhat neurotic. Anyway, so I'm too chicken to walk back through by myself. So I go and follow them out. Well, I end up finding myself down at the bottom of the hospital, in a part of the hospital I don't know where I'm at, right? So they go up the elevator, and I keep walking, trying to figure out, okay, where's the exit? How do I get back outside, up and outside, so that I can go back to my desk and, go answer the phone some more. So as I'm walking, and it's like 2, 3 in the morning, because I worked a 12-hour night shift. I work 6:45 to 6:45. So as I'm walking, I keep feeling like there's a guy behind me, and he's tapping my shoulder. He's saying, hey, lady. Hey, lady. And I'm thinking to myself, dude, you've just watched way too many movies, read too many freaky books. You're just freaking yourself out because it's the middle of the night and you just came from the morgue. Meanwhile, I'm walking faster and faster, and I've got my head down, and it feels like he's, trying to keep up with me. And it's like he's trying to get my attention. Hey, lady. Hey, lady. And I'm thinking, excuse my adjectives, get the fuck away from me, man. Get the fuck away from me. And I keep telling myself, you're freaking yourself out. You're just freaking yourself out. So finally, at the opposite end of the hospital from where my desk is, and I drew a picture because it's hard to see what I'm talking about. Okay, so my desk was here. The morgue is here. It was under McDonald's, right in the middle, down below in the basement. And I end up finding my way out at this end of the hospital, okay? And so as I come outside, I didn't feel like he was behind me anymore, so I felt safe, and I felt, okay, I just imagined all that, right? Even though, my mother was a psychic medium, I've been raised around this stuff my whole life. So, but what happened is, so as I go to get closer to here, I feel him behind me again. And so, of course, I start fast walking. The only thing that kept me from running was just pride, and I didn't want to look like a crazy person. So as I get here, I feel him come up behind me again. And so I go down here, and I guess it's about more right here. There was one of those motion triggered doors, right? And so I go through the door, and it swings open and swings closed. And then I hear it swing open and swing closed again. And I look back, and there's nobody there, right? So then I proceed to go sit at my desk. And he followed me and stood there at the desk. And I just kept reading my book, trying to ignore him. Because I'm not wanting to say anything, because I'm not working with anybody who's into this stuff. And the whole time I keep telling myself, you're crazy. You're just being crazy, right? So finally he gives up and goes away. But he was solid enough that he triggered the door. So then as I sit there, I start asking about the guy with the bag on his head, because I had missed when he was, obviously had just been put in. So come to find out, when I asked the other people I was working with, he had committed suicide and had just been admitted an hour before while I was on break. And so I didn't know all this happened because I was gone to lunch. So he had committed suicide and probably been dead less than 3 hours. So that's why he was so solid, right? So I ended up talking to my mother about it, later. And she thought that that's when my psychic ability really opened up. Like I really started seeing stuff. And I was doing readings, but I wasn't doing any kind of medium work. And I'm not going to lie to you, it scared me so much because, I'm kind of a weenie on stuff like that. I get all freaked out. I don't want stuff getting up on me. It makes me get all like nervy and twitchy. But my mother felt like that was when my abilities truly opened up. But it was years of reading before I started doing medium work. Years. I was like, my kid was little, and he's 20 now, so 19 years ago, and I was reading since I'm 56, and I started reading at about 2021, doing psychic readings. And when this opened up, I had no interest in this because it just scared me that bad. And then I met a lady who was trying to put together like a show about psychics. And she says, well, I wish you were a medium. And I said, yeah, me too. Well, Spirit said, okay. And then they just came in like a herd of elephants. And then all of a sudden they started showing up, and people's dead relatives would show up to give them messages and things like that. And I always tell people, the one thing I say about going to see a medium, it's like a party. You can invite people, but they don't have to show up, and they can come if they want to. And sometimes they just don't have a message. Nothing important enough to put forth that much energy to give you. So anytime you ever talk to anyone and they guarantee you that they can talk to your person who has crossed over, I would question that, because that's not really how it works. You can try, but they don't have to show up. Anyway, I just thought it's just one of my craziest, funnest stories. And I just thought it was a fun story to talk about, because let me tell you, honest to God, I was in like a panic. And the only thing that kept me from running was just, I didn't want to look like it was pride, because I just wanted to run when that guy was behind me going, tapping my shoulder, hey lady, hey lady, hey lady. Anyway, I hope you found this story a lot of fun. Everyone have a great day. Thank you.